Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hello, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. What a day, people. I was just telling my bobble-headed partner. So as most of you know, I in the process of purchasing this house. So I've been making some changes to it. And one of the changes that I'm doing involves some work in the backyard. In the backyard are 5 tree stumps. A couple of them are about, 2.5 feet across. Some of them are a little bit smaller. Unfortunately, the people that cut the trees down didn't seem particularly concerned about cutting them close to the ground. As a rule of thumb, if you ever are cutting down a tree, you might want to get as close as you can to the ground, because if you ever have to go back and grind that stump away, the higher that tree stump is off of the ground, the more difficult the job is. So this morning at about 9:30, somewhere in there, I began the process of grinding away these tree stumps. It is a very, very sunny, beautiful day here in northern Nevada. And I spent about 5 hours or so out in the sun with this 300-pound stump grinding machine that I had rented. And yeah, So it was one heck of a day, but you would be proud of me, people. I'll tell you what happened. Right at the end of all of this, I get this done, and I'm packing up for the day, and I got a phone call that said, so-and-so just called, and they have a stump in their backyard that, they knew you had a stump grinder, and they were wondering if there was a chance you might be able to go over and just, knock down the one that they have as well. And, we did a show on this once, and I have admitted that, like so many people in recovery, we're just bad at saying no. We always feel like we got to be kinder than the average bear, and that we have to, try to make up for some of the things that we've done in the past by just being that guy, right? The go-to dude, call Tommy, he'll go grind that stump.
That's a great thing you say there, because it's true. I feel it too,
isn't
man.
it?
I mean,
it really is. I think we did a show once called "It's Okay to Say No."
Yeah.
And well, people, I said no. In fact, I think I said hell no. Technically, was what I said. I was hurting so bad after doing this that I just said, you know what? There is no chance on God's green earth that I'm going to do this. I'm sorry. I hope that I don't come across as a jerk or anything else, but there's just no way. I can't tell you how close I would have been cutting it, even if I did decide to go down that road. It would have been really a struggle to pull that off in the amount of time that that would have been necessary. So I don't know. I'm just glad that, and I'm somewhat proud that I was able to do this without. I don't think I came across as a jerk, but I stood my ground, which I just have not been very good at when it comes to. I'm always that guy that says sure, and
it's almost
this time I didn't.
It's almost like we're in what you're saying there, it's almost like we're doing a penance type of thing. You know what I mean?
I think that's probably as good a way of putting that as you possibly can.
I think all of us kind of struggle with that. That's in recovery, because we've done so many bad things that we feel like we have to, I guess, overcompensate a little.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say that is exactly what it is. It's overcompensating for some of the things that we've done in the past. But so I drew a line in the sand. I didn't do it. And here I am with you, sunburned to beat the band. But those 5 stumps are gone. And shortly, I will be sound asleep. But tonight's subject matter, people, is one that I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about. It's if you saw the thumbnail, this is not something that the lifeboat came up with. This is one of those philosophical questions that people have been asking since the beginning of time. And perfect example, one of the great philosophers of the last century, Clark W. Griswold. For those of a certain age, you'll be familiar with that particular philosopher. But we probably remember the movie National Lampoon's Vacation, and the Griswolds load up the family to head cross country to Wally World, and there's a scene in the beginning where his son Rusty is saying to him, "Dad, why is it again that we're not flying out to Wally World?" And Clark says, "Because getting there's half the fun. You know that, right? You know that." There's something to be said for that, right? There really is. Very often, getting there really is, or really can be, half of the fun. And as a little boy, growing up in Vermont, my family used to take a trip almost annually. I think we did it pretty much every year. But we would go to visit my grandparents in Florida. They lived in Boca Raton. We would load up the car, and in the beginning, it used to be a car. When the minivan finally got released by Chrysler, we started buying minivans, and we would pull a couple of rows of seats out and put sleeping bags in there. And Johnny and I would try to stay up for like 2 days prior to the road trip. And our goal was always to basically fall asleep in Vermont and wake up in Florida. Like truthfully, that became a goal of ours. But looking back on it now, I remember those road trips. Very often, I remember more about the road trip itself than I do the vacation. And there are some of my fondest memories of being a kid was being in those vehicles and heading down south for vacation. And I've told this story a million times, and I've even told it here on the lifeboat. But my brother Johnny is his biggest fear in life is being lost. Right? He really struggles with this, and now with phones the way they are, it's kind of a non-issue. But if you remember back in the last century, in the 70s and 80s, getting lost was a pretty easy thing. It happened all the time. And I remember multiple times on those road trips where we might have accidentally got off on the wrong, highway, or after getting gas, we didn't get back on. And my mother would whisper to my dad, she'd say, and she always called him Moose, but she'd go, Moose, are we lost? And Johnny would sit bolt upright. I don't care how hard he was sleeping or what was going on. He would sit up and go, what, we're lost? Like there was just that, instant moment of panic. And, this is humorous, but there's a reason that I'm telling you all of this stuff. There really is. And the reason is this, we focus really hard on the destination. As people in recovery, it's difficult not to focus on the destination. And the destination is obviously recovery, right? We focus on just how fantastic it's going to be to not be a drug addict, how great it's going to be to not be a drug user. And very often we focus so hard on the goal that we make some expectations that are unrealistic. And we've tried to guard against this. We've talked about this a lot recently. And it's something that you got to guard against because, when you're living a life of addiction, there's always that dream, right? There's always that focus in your mind of, I'm going to kick this stuff somewhere down the line. At some point, I'm going to get sober. And we think it for so long that we create this vision in our head of what sober means and what sober will be. And we think about all of the things that are going wrong in our life, right? God, I can't make the rent. I'm borrowing money from people to try to pay the rent. And right now my car's not insured. And, all of these different things that are weighing down on you. And we come to believe that if we're sober, magically, someone is going to show up at the door and go, hey, I'm here to take care of every single problem that you have in your life. Congratulations on the whole sober thing. Here's some money for the rent. Here's your insurance card. Here's the bridges that you burned with your kids. I'm here to repair those. Obviously, people, that does not happen, right? At all. And because of that, there is that hangover or that whiplash or that whatever you want to call it. But it's the moment of realization where all of a sudden it's very obvious to you that, what? I'm sober and life's not perfect. All of those things that I built up in my head, they're simply not there, right? They haven't come true and I'm still miserable. And for a lot of people, that's where the rubber meets the road and that's where relapse happens. And very often it's not just a matter of relapse happening, but it happens with a screw it, right? It may not be exactly how you word it, but there's that moment of, what, to hell with this, man. Why did I even do this? At least before, I was catching a buzz or there were moments during the day where I wasn't stressed out about all of this stuff. Now I'm sober. All those problems are still there and I have to deal with it. And it causes a lot of people to stumble and fall, right? It really does. And I think one of the biggest reasons for this is that we focus way too much on the end game. We focus far too much on the destination. And the truth of the matter is, without fail, the people who I have met who are successful in turning their life around, the people that I've met who are living a sober life and are happy living a sober life, more often than not, if not all the time, truthfully, it's because they are concentrating more on the journey than they are on the destination. Now, what does that mean? I mean, it almost sounds like mumbo jumbo, but it's not, right? People, we have to learn what it means to live sober. We have to learn what it means to no longer be a drug addict or no longer be someone addicted to alcohol or whatever your um, previous substance of abuse was. It is a learning process to be a human being that no longer has that stuff coursing through your veins 24/7, right? And that journey, that process of learning that is what is going to transform you into whatever, insert your favorite descriptive term here. It's gonna turn you into a better version of yourself, or it's going to turn you into a new creation, or whatever the case may be. There's a reason that so many of the other groups out there that help people get sober have a series of steps that you're supposed to work through. I'm not saying that it's busy work, because most of it is very, very important stuff. But let's be honest, it's busy work. I mean, it's important, make no mistake. Those steps are important stuff. But the purpose of those steps is to keep you focused, not on the end game, but on the journey. And ideally, as you work through a program, and I know that a lot of people hate that term because it just sounds so 12-step-ish, but as you're working through your program, you're doing things in a sequential order, right? And there's a reason that they've laid them out that way. And whether or not you like 12-step programs, people, you still got to tip your hat to them because they do amazing, amazing things for so many people. And I know that I spend a lot of time crapping on 12-step programs, but it's not the program that I'm crapping on. It's not the 12 steps that I'm crapping on. It's the fact that a great concept, right? A beautiful concept by a couple of addicts who really discovered that this is treatable, right? Prior to them, all of the best minds in the business said it was not treatable, but two addicts figured it out. But my problem is when, as so often happens, people that have nothing to do with anything step in and screw stuff up, right? Go to court tomorrow, spend 45 minutes in any courtroom in the United States, spend 45 minutes and watch the judge at sentencing. So what are you in here for? Okay, well, here's what I'm going to order. I'm going to send you out on house arrest and you got to do 30 meetings in 30 days. Right? This is court ordered. They're going to tell people, or they'll say, I want 90 meetings in 90 days. And you got a guy, you can look at him, even if you're only staring at the back of his head, you can feel him rolling his eyes. He doesn't want to be there. He has no desire to be there. And that, people, is why I have a problem with 12-step programs. This is watered down something that was beautiful by forcing people there that don't want to be there. And how many times do we say, you hear everybody say it. It just doesn't work until you're ready for it to work, right? If you're not ready to actually get sober, then nothing is going to help you. Well, then the court forcing you to go there might not be such a great idea. Because now when you walk in, 40 or 50% of the room might want to be there, and the rest of them are just there to get that piece of paper signed so that they can stay on house arrest or to be compliant with probation or whatever the case may be. And therein lies my problem with that. And that being said, moving on, the steps are about the journey, right? The steps are not about the finish line. It's about the journey. And what it's doing is it's training you for what it is going to mean to be sober. It's training you for what's going to happen when you get to the destination. And we want to rush through this. This is a process that we don't want to be in for more than, say, 10 or 15 minutes, right? I want to say on Monday morning, this is it. I now want to get sober. Okay, I want all the pain and all of the suffering to be over, preferably in the next half hour. And then I want the world to respect me as a new and sober person and forget all of the things that I've done in the past. I'm patient. I'm willing to give them an hour, hour and a half, right? This is really the defining characteristic of addicts in general, is it not? We know what we want, and we want it when? 15 minutes ago, right? Yeah. Mark says no.
Now. Now.
The average addict, they know what they want, and they want it instantly. Instant gratification is what addiction is about, right? I mean, think about the air quote normal person. Something comes up in their life and they've got to work through it. They have to cope with whatever is going on, and there's going to be anxiety, or there's going to be anger, there's going to be depression, and they're going to work through that. And that process may take the air quotes normal person a day, it might take a week. They pray about it, they call people, they do whatever. The addict goes, oh, I don't have that kind of time.
Yep.
I'm going to get high. I can make this go away in 15 minutes, or I can make this go away in one hit, right? In 2 seconds, I will no longer care about any of this. Well, we program ourselves for that, don't we? I mean, if we spend 5 or 10 years as an addict, that means that we spend 5 or 10 years programming our mind to get what we want that fast. That's not going to happen in recovery, people. It's not going to happen at all. So as opposed to focusing on the destination, how about if we start focusing on the journey? Honestly, I could think of 30 or 40 really good cliches. I think I'll just pick one. Live in the moment, right? Don't live in the future. Don't live for the, boy, do I want to get sober and things are going to be great when I get sober. Tell you what, today, I'm not going to get high. Today, I'm not going to get high. And I'm going to explore what that feels like. Today, I'm going to focus on what it feels like to not be getting high. I'm not going to think about tomorrow. I'm not going to focus on any of that crap. I'm going to stay right here in the moment, feeling not high. And I'll tell you, in the beginning, that's a daunting concept, right? It really is. It's a daunting concept. And depending on your drug of choice, right? For me, in the beginning, that wasn't something that was going to work. Truthfully, it just could not work for me. I didn't want to think about the fact that I wasn't high. That was god awful. So I went the other route. I would sit and focus on the fact that I wasn't sick. I would focus on the fact that I didn't need a fix. Did I feel great? No, I didn't. I mean, I would love to tell everybody who's just getting ready to quit that, day 3 rolled around and I thought, this is awesome, man. This is what I have always waited for. But that's just not the truth. It didn't happen like that for me. It was a process. And as crazy as it sounds, it's been a journey, right? A really long one. And I'm still smack dab in the middle of this journey. And I don't think I'm ever going to get to a point where I get to the destination. I really don't. I've said many times on this show, my goal is to get off of the planet without ever doing that crap ever again. That's the goal. So there is no destination.
What if maybe something like, I kind of look at it like this. The goal is the journey. It kind of, if you look at the journey part of it as what you want to do, it kind of does kind of help shape your mind a little bit to focus on that instead of, because what happens after, like you're watching a movie and you get to the climax? What happens? Movie's over, right? Typically, any kind of action flick, you go watch an action flick. When's the movie end? Well, it ends when the climax hits there. That's the goal, right? So when we're going through life and addiction and recovery and stuff, I don't think most of us don't want it to be over. So let's like focus on that. And, I guess there's kind of like, I guess this is why we talk about too, Tommy, like mini goals, like short-term stuff. And it just kind of helps us push forward. But that's just kind of how I look at that whole, the goal is actually the journey part of it. And it is the most fun. It's the most, enjoyable part of your life. This is what makes it different from being white knuckle and not. It's kind of what I'm saying.
And I think you touched on something that is really kind of important here. If your goal, right, is to be a happy, sober person, there is a long process to being a happy, sober person. And I've met people that said, you know what, I quit and it was like a cloud lifted off of me and I was instantly happy. And there was, oh, God bless them, man. Mm-hmm. Seriously, I love that. And I believe them. I don't doubt them for a second. I just don't think that is, I think that's the exception, right? I don't think that's the rule. I definitely think that is the exception.
Isn't Johnny like that? Wasn't Johnny kind of like that?
Yeah, my brother was very much like that. Yep, he really was. But again, and we talk about this a lot, his life was so jam-packed with so many new things that he had going on that I think, he was really sort of falling in love, and he had everything that was going on with his girl at the time. And his channel was just exploding, and he was traveling around the world, and he was doing all of these things. And there was no falling back to the same people, places, and things. Everything was brand new, and everything was unique, and everything was fresh. And yeah, I mean, I guess, if that's how you structure it, you do have a better chance of being happy faster. I believe that. But I still think that it's always going to be a bit of a journey. And if you set yourself up for, I'm going to be happy when I get to the finish line, you're in deep doo-doo.
Yep.
Because you have to be happy along the way, or you're never going to get to the finish line, right? So Mark touched on a really important point. It's one of the reasons that we encourage people to set very, very attainable, very short-term goals, right? I mean, I remember in the very beginning thinking, I want to get to lunch, right? I want to get to lunch without getting high. I mean, in the very beginning, truthfully, people, that's what it was. There was none of that one day at a time stuff. They racked the doors at 5 a.m. and I was going, all right, they feed lunch at 10:30. I got to get 5.5 hours, man. I can do this. I can get 5.5 hours. I can do this. I can do this. And from there, it was literally lunch would get there and I would go, all right, man, they're gonna do showers, right? They would come and pull us out of the cell because it was in a lockdown unit, and showers would come at about 1:30, and I'm looking again, right? I'm back on the clock. I can make it to 1:30. I can make it to 1:30. I can make it to 1:30, and it may sound silly, people, but when you start out that way, then when you get to the point where you're actually living one day at a time, you feel like you won the lottery. If you can get past the white knuckle, I'm just trying to get through the next 15 minutes, then you've actually set a goal, and that you've actually, worked toward making my bed, right? I know it drives you people nuts, but there's a reason that I make my bed. It's the first goal of the day, right?
It's funny you say that, because I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, people. There is a reason for all of these small goals, and the reason is, it's twofold. Number one, I can achieve it, right? And back in the beginning, I had nothing that I could achieve. I didn't own any property. I had nothing. I had full of concrete walls. There was only a couple of things I could do, right, to really, set any kind of a goal. What was I going to do? I'm going to not sit on the bed. This time I will sit. There wasn't even a chair in that cell, people.
Well, it's like this, Tommy. Lewis actually has a great thing going on right here. He's talking about, and I think it applies to what we're talking about here. He says he's going to have 1 month sober, and what does he say, on Friday? And
wow.
He says that's the most he's been sober in 15 years.
Wow, it's awesome.
That's living the journey.
Yeah.
That's doing the journey. Okay?
Absolutely it is.
100% the same. It's exactly what Tommy's talking about here, guys. He's going for the journey right there. He's not, he's got that short-term goal is what? Friday, right?
Well, and you know what?
And
I'm really glad that this came up, Mark, because he's a great example. He really is, people, because he lives in the moment. He really does live in the moment. As from the very first time he came here, there was no sugarcoating. There was no anything. He came here and said, you know what? I just quit doing cocaine, and he just came straight out, told us exactly where he was, and he said, and I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Right? There was no sugarcoating it. There was no, but he had everything in perspective. We beat the drum really hard on perspective, but he said, I don't think I got another chance. I'm going to die if I don't do this. And I know I'll talk about this until people get sick of hearing it, but as bad as everything that was going on in this man's life, and he had made it really, really clear that things were awful in his life, somebody came in and said something that he thought, you know what, maybe this person's, in the same boat, or maybe feeling a little bit worse, and instantly came to that person's, to the rescue. Honestly, he had some really sound advice and said, hey, if you want to reach out, I'm here for you. People, that's living in the moment.
Yes.
That is participating in the journey, not waiting for the finish line. Because if you wait for the finish line, you're going to miss a whole hell of a lot of his life. right? As someone in recovery, the journey is, Mark nailed it. The journey is the finish line. Every single day, there's never going to be a point where we come up and say, here is your trophy, right? You are now officially a sober person, and we can go home now, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you've successfully mastered this. This is the practice of being sober, right?
Well,
it's not the achievement of being sober. This is something that you have to do every single day of your life for the rest of it. Go ahead, Mark.
No, it's 100%. And for people that might be watching that doesn't necessarily have been through an addiction or anything like that, you can kind of relate it like this. Have you ever talked to a couple that wasn't necessarily young or old? They were like 30, and they're saying we're waiting till we get financially stable to have a child. It's the same thing. It's never going to happen. You're never going to be financially ready in your mind to have a child. So what are you waiting on? And it's the same thing with our addictions. You're never going to be able to have that specific, whatever you got in your mind as the goal, as the endpoint goal of your sobriety, and whatever that is, most likely it's unachievable until you're just done, right?
Right.
And I, and I'm not trying to, put people into that kind of a label or anything, but I think it applies because, if you're going to wait till you know what the goal is, I fought that. That's something I fought in my own head. I was like, you know what? If somebody could tell me that at 5:36 with 42 seconds on January the 7th, you're never going to go through a withdrawal again. If somebody could have told me that, and if it was true, that's a goal, right? I know exactly when it's going to happen. But with addiction recovery, it's not like that, guys. There is no specific time, right? We're always going to be at least fighting this mentally, if not, chemically at the same time for the rest of our lives. And I know that's a hard thing to say. And I'm not trying to bring the room down or anything like that. It's just the truth. And if you can grab a hold of that, then maybe you can hop on just the journey and just try to ride that for a while. And it's like with my medicated assisted treatment. They always ask you, how do you feel, right? And they're asking because they want to know if you want to start titrating, start cutting your dose and stuff. And there would be times where I would forget to take my medication. That's how I knew that it was time for me to start titrating down, because I was at a stable place, and that's what I do. That's me. But that's my journey, and my journey continues. And even if there ever comes a day when I'm not on the medicated assisted treatment, I'm still going to do what I'm doing right now, because the middle part of this is so much harder. I promise. Mm-hmm. So that I'm just trying. Basically, I said all that. I know I kind of talked for a minute there, a little rant, but I said all that just to let everybody know that the journey is always going to be there. So let's just make it fun and the best that we can.
Well, and we've always said, first of all, JJ, good to see you, and TNT, oi. It's, we've said this from the very first day. We wanted a place where we could celebrate small victories, and it's again in the real world, air quotes, normal world, whatever you want to call it. In the real world, if you say to somebody, hey, you know what, man, I got 3 days sober, people look at you like, what, you haven't got high in 3 days and you want a pat on the back, right? The society has sort of really kind of, they've created an environment that makes people uncomfortable to celebrate something like that.
Well, you said it earlier.
It is hard every day, period. TNT says, and you know what? It is.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, people, right? I haven't said that in a long time. Remember in the beginning, I used to say it so often that everybody would pick on me. Okay, here's the deal. My journey in this process, my journey really started to change when I realized that a certain period of time had gone by. And it occurred to me that the number of days that I had that were really hard and really not that much fun were now less than the days that were easy and the days that were fun. And I remember that hitting me like a wave, and I went, holy hell, this works.
Yeah.
Like, this really can happen. And, this is just what the journey is. And now every once in a while, I'll have a 2 to 3 week run, right? I'll have 21, 22 days where nothing bothers me enough to even think about dope. And that's kind of a big deal, because for an hour every single day I talk about dope, right? Yeah. But I mean, I can go 3 weeks without, the concept or the thought or any of that even worming its way into my head. Now, is it going to be like that forever? No. I mean, there are some real bad months, and that's just part of the deal. I've said before, the holidays kick the crap out of me. Yeah. They're a lot easier on the street than they are incarcerated. But when November rolls around, I struggle, and I struggle right up until about the second day of January. There's a lot of memories, and there's a lot of things, that just make that a tough time of year. But again, that's part of the journey. People, as weird as this is, if you had told me 7 or 8 years ago that I would have celebrated the days that sucked as much as I would have celebrated the days that were great, I would have told you were nuts. But the way I look at this now, right, I think when you finally get to a place where you're really, really comfortable in this journey, then you come to realize that on the days that are awful, right, that's normal. Yeah. Right? I can honestly look at myself in the mirror and go, you know what? I'm not going to make this go away. This is how we were designed, right? I'm supposed to have crappy days from time to time. And I got a toolkit that I built my damn self, right? That I assembled myself to get me through days like this. And at the end of those days, when I have actually gotten through it and I get to the other side of it, I want to go like this, right? Yeah. I want to go, hell yeah. No smack, no coke, no nothing. I got through a really tough day. Sure. Today, yeah. People, just a quick one, because I think you will like this. Today, I dialed the number this morning for my drug test. Why? Because it's a damn habit that I've been doing for so long now that I can't even break myself from doing it. So I dialed the number without thinking, and my number came up, right? So I got to go and take a drug test. And I thought, I wonder if I'm really supposed to go down and take this, right? Like, why would my number even still be in the system? Right. So just to cover myself, I'm just going to run down there and pee, right? Because I certainly don't want, to be out of compliance, right? Yeah. Or anything like that. Yep. And right around the time I'm going through all of this in my head, I got a text message from my probation officer that asked me about filling out some stuff for that trip that I'm taking. They didn't have a form, so I had written it out on a piece of paper, and she said, we really need that on a form. I'm sorry, but if you could pop back tomorrow and just write it on a form, we've got one down there for you now. And I said, sure, no problem. I said, by the way, my number came up this morning. And her response was, well, stop calling the number and you won't know if your number came up. Right? Stop calling. Apparently that number will always be in the system, and sometimes it will pop up. It's just something automated. She said, but you don't test anymore. That phase of your journey is over. And wow. That really is what it is, right? This is it's another step in this journey of mine.
Well, it had to make you feel really good, man.
It did. It absolutely did. It's a small victory, but the day is coming, people, and you'll be here to celebrate with me. But the day is coming where the federal government is going to say, you know what? You're done. Your debt to society is completely paid, and you're free to travel as you wish. You're free to do whatever you want, and you never ever have to check in or talk to us ever again as long as you live. It's just going to be another step. Yeah. It's not going to be the finish line, right? I could build it up to that, right? But then what? Yeah. When that happens, people, the next day the sun is going to come up just like it did the day before, and it's just going to be another day that I'm not going to get high. Exactly. And honestly, I've come to marvel at the things that happened to me since I'm sober. I've come to marvel at the things that I look at and I find joy in that I didn't see in the past. And, and even the things that bring me down. Yesterday sucked, And it didn't suck for me, it sucked for an entire country. And there's a group of people that it's going to suck for the rest of their life. It's a bad day.
Yeah.
It's a really bad day. And then today, in locally, right here where I live, there was a real panic at one of the schools. And now they don't know whether or not it was a pellet gun. They don't know. But for a period of time today, schools on lockdown. The local neighborhood was on alert, and it was just a scary time. And these are tough times that we're living in. And you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I know something about tomorrow, though. I ain't getting high.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't care how bad it's going to be. If you watched last night's video, I was miserable. My bobbleheaded partner was miserable. It was a very tough day. And we're going to have tough days. And at the end of that day, we're supposed to.
Yeah.
And at the end of that day, when we didn't get high, at the end of that day, when we got through everything that happened, as bad as that day was, there's a victory in that for us. That really is what it means, people, to enjoy the journey as much as the supposed destination, right? The goal is it's just another part of this. The as Mark said, the journey is the goal. It's that day-to-day getting up, doing what you do, living your life, and doing it chemical free, living your best existence. Because I promise you, people, and I'm not mad at anybody here that's high. I saw a couple of comments when we were first going live. I'm not mad at any of you that are getting high. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm not going to bust your chops about it or anything else. But I'll tell you something, and this is a promise. I promise you, you're not going to live your best life stoned.
You just won't. 100%.
It's just the gospel truth.
And something else, though, we can promise you.
How the hell does he know? I spent 3.5 decades seeing if that was possible, and I assure you it's not.
And something else that me and Tommy can promise you, that when you're ready not to be, we're here. And that's just what we do, right? And I think, you touched on a lot of great stuff there, and it's like we're programmed in a certain way, right? All of us right now, every one of us are probably within arm's length of our smartphones. That's instantaneous gratification is what that is. You think it in your mind, all you have to do is pick your phone up and Google it or do whatever we do with it, right? And anybody that has any age at all, and you don't have to reply in the chat, I get it. But anybody that's 45, 50, a little older, whatever, we said this before, but there's a whole lot of reasons this isn't like this anymore. But I remember going outside, mom and dad not even calling my name until the street lights went out when I had to be home. Until the street lights came on, right? And that was a different day and time. And I would say, and again, I was a kid back then, like young. I wasn't using back then or any of that kind of stuff. I was living my life. And it was just a different day and time. So, given that, part of our journey is to recognize what the actual issues are. And that is an issue for everybody. It really is. I catch myself every once in a while picking my phone up while I'm sitting there with my wife and my daughter watching TV or just eating dinner or whatever. And I'm sitting there thinking, what an idiot. Why did I do that? There's no reason to do that. I got all the entertainment and all the things that I love in this world sitting right next to me. What the heck am I doing? And we can take that and we can apply it to our recovery, our addiction, wherever you're at in your walk. And I don't, and again, I don't like saying this, but it's just the truth. It's never going to be any different as far as there's always going to be something we have to try to conquer. Always. But those hard times most certainly get spread out. And you start getting sprinkled of good stuff in the middle. And those are the things that Tommy was talking about with the tools in the tool belt. That's when we're able to, when we say that we went through something really, really hard, we don't waste that as addicts. We remember that to the effect that we make a tool. We forge a tool out of that. And we put that sucker in our toolbox and we remember that it's there. So when the holidays do come around, when we've got stuff going on, we're going into a funeral that we don't want to go to, massive stuff happens like yesterday in our world. Sometimes there's tools there in our tool belt we just need to grab a hold of and remember that they're there. So, and I know that that's all metaphoric and all those kinds of things, but it applies. And I think that, again, I have to say, the middle part, and that's exactly what we're talking about here mainly, is the hardest part to get a hold of. It really is, guys. We can all say, hey, I'll go through hell for a month, 2, 3 months of physical crap if I never have to deal with that again, right? But the fact of the matter is, what you've done is you beat the physical part, but now you got the middle stuff you got to deal with too. And if you don't work on both at the same time, it's hard to get moving forward at all. So just remember that, and just remember we're here. You guys are there. You guys are in there, and I mean, you guys doing your thing. I mean, you guys do every time. Hey, Jeff, good to see you, bud. But yeah, there's a lot of good advice going on here too. Virginia says she goes outside. Grandma JJ says, she takes a nature walk. Occam's razor. I love the name, by the way. Been on my channel, I don't know for how long, but that's a great thing. Occam, you can put what Occam's razor is in there in the chat if you want. It's basically if it's the most obvious solution, then maybe it is the solution. That's kind of what the basis of that thought process is. Believe it or not, the scientific community uses that a lot.
Sure.
So
if you eliminate all of the, you're right. Jeffrey Canale just got here. I got a bone to pick with Jeffrey Canale since he's here. Well, I ground stumps today, as I told you people. I had to go out and grind away 5 very large stumps. But there are times in my life where I'm stuck thinking about Jeffrey Canale for hours because this elbow right here, it stops working. Like that is it. I cannot straighten that out any more than that right now because of what has happened today. And that was a gift from Jeffrey Canale that I'm stuck with for the rest of my life. So I was thinking of you today, Jeffrey.
I guess he broke your arm at some point.
He did my elbow. He did my elbow in he snuck in the middle of the night and attacked me. It was a sneak attack. But anyway, it really was. That is how that went down. But there was something else that I read in the comments.
He said, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
On point, man. On point, Jeff.
Yeah. I won't rub it in and tell him that I had asked him.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Because there was something else that I wanted to say.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No, it wasn't you. I assure you, it was not you this time. But you know what, people? The long and the short of it is this. Truthfully, as we start to go through all of this, Mark makes a good point. Every single time you overcome something, every single time you get through a day, I got people all the time who email me and say, I'm not going to journal. I'm not going to get a notebook and write stuff in it. It's stupid. I'm not a guy that writes stuff down. Do you know why you do that, people? Seriously, not to beat a dead horse, but do you know why we do that? Because let's say yesterday, right? Yesterday was a bitch. We all know that. It was a terrible day. It was a really tough thing to get through, right? So at the end of the day, I go through and I journal and something else comes up. Say 2-3 weeks from now, and it's really tough and it's ugly and you feel like you can't think of anything but dope and it's driving you insane. You think, you know what? How did I get through that other one? Well, that awful thing happened in Texas. How did I get through that? Well, I go to my little journal book and I start flipping back, right? And I go to the 24th of the month and I look, and basically everything that I did to get through that day is written down. When we talk about building a toolbox, right? When we talk about assembling a sobriety toolbox, that's how you do it. When something works, when you get through a really bad period of time, you don't just go, whew, thank God. No, you write it down. That's why when I say things like, was it a good relapse or was it a bad relapse? A good relapse is one that you study the snot out of and you figure out at what point did you start backsliding? And at what point did that backslide become a screw it? And at what point did the screw it become a I just bought a 12 pack? And if you have all of those things, not just figured out, but written down, that was a hell of a relapse.
Yep.
That was a relapse that was worth it. But if you're sitting there getting ready for your next relapse going, not really sure why I did it last time, well, you're going to do it again, right? Because the last one was a bad relapse. If you make a mistake, people learn from it, right? How do you learn from it? You write things down. And if you're one of those people that just straight refuses to write something down, then get yourself somebody within your sobriety family who's willing to listen to you. Maybe they'll jot down some notes, but at least you will articulate, right? You will talk about what it was that triggered the behavior that caused you to use again. The journey, right? That's how all of this comes together, people. The journey is about staying sober, right? This is not mysticism and it's not magic. It's nuts and bolts. This worked. It worked so well, I'm going to write it the hell down. Yep. And I'm going to make sure that the next time things go bad, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to this. And if you've got, say, 4 or 5 years worth of those journal books, like I can go back to where I lost my dad. Now, I get through that month. I promise you, people, nothing's coming up that I can't get through. But no, but I take the time to take notes on things like that, right? I mean, I'm going to write that down. And it's not always, hey, this is exactly what I did. If you read my journal, sometimes it's just me ranting.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's just me cursing viciously in a little notebook. And you say, well, what good does that do? I don't know. I'm still sober. Right? Must have done something.
That's such a great point.
Right? I mean, for real. There are times, people, where letting it go is just what needs to happen. And there are times where the only people in the world that I really can call up and tell every single thing that I want to tell, maybe I can't get them on the horn. Or maybe I'm pissed at them.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And they're probably not going to be the first person that I want to call if I'm beefing with them. But that journal is the human that doesn't exist. That journal is Q sitting in that cell, right? It's whatever you need it to be. It's that person that doesn't exist. It's that person that does exist. It's that conscience. It's that Jiminy Cricket. It's whatever the hell you need. Yep. But you know something? I didn't invent this, people. If I advise you of anything that I invented, I will also advise you to run like hell. I'm not that smart. I'm really not. But I've been able to cull together from some of the best minds in all of in this entire process of getting sober. You know, I'm no genius, but I've read everything. Yeah. And I have put together a plan that has worked not just for me, but for a lot of other people. But there's nothing mystical about this. It's nuts and bolts stuff. Get a damn book and write stuff down.
And let me add something there just real quick. That guys, listen. You know, I know for a lot of people it's embarrassment, right? They think it's embarrassing to do these kinds of things because they think like it just sounds weird. People have gotten made fun of over it in the past, so our mind kind of goes that way, right? Well, let me take some of the excuse out of that for you. Like I said a minute ago, everything can be used for good or bad. So grab your smartphone, hit the record button, start talking. You don't have to write nothing down. It's all right there. You can save it on a flash drive if you want to. Doctors do it every day. Psychologists do it every day. So, and that's if it works for them, why the heck wouldn't it work for us? You know what I mean? It's, so, but it does. I will say this. The physical action of actually writing it on a piece of paper is a little different than just speaking it into a recorder. Okay, there's a little bit more intimacy there between you and the situation because you're actually writing it down. You're getting to see it and all that kind of stuff. But the advantage of it being on your phone or on a flash drive or whatever, you can pretty much pull that out anytime you want and listen to it. Okay? So just remember that that's a very good tool that you have in your hand if you use it for the right things. And, just like it can be used for negative, but you can use it just as much for good. And it's a great thing, guys. I say this a lot. It's the worst and the best thing that's ever happened to society all at the same time. Communications, the internet, all that stuff. It's saved lives and it's killed lives. It's just back and forth everywhere. It's all about what we use the tool, how we use it. You can weaponize your words. Words mean something. We say that a lot here. So you can weaponize them, or you can use your words for trying to help somebody heal up what's going on. So there, you got good and bad in both of that. And again, all that stuff applies because we do that in our journey, right? We have to learn. We're learning. We're always learning. The second you think you know everything is the second you quit learning. Just a fact. So yeah. Sorry, Blue. Didn't mean to take that excuse from you. Well, hold on a minute. Yeah, I did, because that's exactly what I wanted.
Right.
But no. Yeah.
No, but you're absolutely right. You know what? I need to get a journal high key. Yeah, you know what? I like the idea of the technology. I do the journal thing just because it's when I started this process, people, there was no technology. I had a piece of paper and a pencil, and that is how I started. It's probably how I will stick with it. But I'll tell you something else. I can go back to last, say, July 31st, and I can go to YouTube and I can look at things that we talked about on here, and I can look at some times in my life that were really, really tough because I came here and I shared it with everybody, and I can, there have been some triumphs, and I can, I have shared it with people, and, I figure 5 or 6 years from now, it's going to be fascinating to be able to go back and look at the journey from 5 years sober to 10 years sober with every day recorded is going to be something fun to watch. It's going to be something that my kids can someday look at and, figure out.
I could share this with you guys just really, really quick. And it's actually very embarrassing sometimes. Like, I spend a lot of time, my self time is usually in the middle of the night because I got a family, and I refuse to, except for what I'm doing right here, take time away from my family, right? So I try to schedule that stuff all around. But when I'm feeling crazy, when I'm feeling like, man, I'm really, really, I just need to do whatever, I actually talk to myself. And I'm not really talking to myself, I'm just saying my thoughts out loud. And I can't tell you how many times my wife will come in here and say, "Who are you talking to?" Myself, go back to bed.
Right.
One of those kinds of things. But it's therapeutic for me, right? Because I'm saying it, and if I say it in my mind, I don't have to think about it anymore. It's already out there. It's doing what it needs to do. And for me, especially if you're fighting anxiety, this is actually a tool you can be taught to use for your anxiety. Just to start, go in a room by yourself or whatever and verbally say stuff. Go look in the mirror, verbally say stuff. When we were brought up or whatever, but people would say that we were crazy if we did that. If somebody seen you doing that and they think you were nuts. Not so much today. There's a little bit more acceptance with those kinds of things today. So if there's an embarrassment factor, please understand that is actually kind of tailing off now. It really is. Don't be afraid to do it. That's all kind of the point. So, but anyway, yeah, we are at the top, but
Yeah, you know what? Look, and if you're worried about people thinking you're crazy, you're on the wrong channel. Yeah, you have come to the wrong place. People, thank you so much for showing up here every night. You know what? We're lucky, and we know we are. There's a lot of people out there that put up some really great content, and 4 people see it. The fact that you people show up here every day is nothing shy of a miracle as far as I'm concerned. We know we're lucky, and it's not just that there's an audience, right? There's
very
an amazing
humbling.
audience.
It's
There
humbling.
really is, an amazing audience of people who are just as kind and as caring and as intelligent and intellectually solid as any place I've ever seen anywhere. And we know that we're lucky, and we never want to take that or you for granted. So thank you so much. for being here each and every night, because it's going a long way to keeping me and my bobbleheaded partner sober. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, you
Really
guys,
is.
you don't even understand, guys.
Yep. We will be back 23 hours from right now. I'm going to be doing it right here.
If that's going to hurt your arm to pick squirrel up, you better not.
You know, honestly, I've been thinking about it the entire night. But even before I got started, I thought this is going to suck.
Yeah. Don't do it, man. It's going to hurt.
No, you know what? It just would not be right for the. Besides, then she doesn't get treats. Like, this is her job.
Can you move the camera down to look at her? Oh, that's up to you. Yeah, you don't have to do all that.
I'm going to do just the lefty. It's just going to be the left lift, and I'm just going to sort of guide it there with the right, because I know you guys don't tune in to see me. It's all about the cat in the basket. All right, we're going to be back 23 hours from now. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody, people. Please. It's important stuff. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
And this is a cat in the basket. Can you see that paw there? That's a paw and a tail. All right. Good night, people. We love you.